Well, folks, here we are yet again for another great 5 Points podcast. This is going to be a good one because we're talking about benefits. Benefits for who, you might ask? Benefits for you. Oh, and you. Hey, you too. See you right there with the uniform on. All of us get benefits, but we're going to talk to a subject matter expert today that's going to fill us in on all of the great aspects of how this stuff works. Stay tuned. This is going to be a great one. Let's get cooking. All right, folks, well, here we are for yet another 5 Points podcast with the Chief. I'm Monte Manson, and to my left is the Fire Chief, the Director, Mr. Joe Tyler. How are you, sir?
Doing well, Monte. Thanks for hosting us again today.
Absolutely, absolutely. So today is a very special day. We have a subject matter expert and a very well-versed individual with us today to talk about something that really applies to all 12,000 plus of our employees, and that has to do with their benefits. We all get bennies. And so this will be a really good conversation, Chief. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. 34 years in the organization now. This has been a critical part of everything I need to support my family, to support myself. And there are some unique timelines that we're going to learn about today and be able to share regarding open enrollment.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for all of you out there, really pay attention to this one. This is going to be a good one. And speaking of all of those special dates and all of the important information, we would like to introduce our special guest today out of our Labor and Human Resources Office, Miss December Brinsfield. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So really quickly, just give us a quick background of how you came up through the department, who you are, where you're working, that kind of thing.
December Brinsfield. I'm a human resources manager over in the River Point office, human resources, here at Sacramento headquarters. And I've been with CAL FIRE since 2014. Nice. Manager 1 over payroll and benefits. And for the last year and a half or so, I've been overseeing the headquarters disability management unit. So helping everybody get benefits and wage replacement when they go off work for personal illnesses and injuries, take care of their family. I've been a state employee for almost 24 years. 20 of those years has been in state human resources.
Wow. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I mean, I don't know about you, Chief, but throughout the years that you've been here, I know I have personally reached out to you for assistance, and you have been right there to step up and help. So I just want to thank you for everything that you've done for the department, for me, for everybody. Your service is absolutely to be commended. So thank you.
My pleasure. That's what I'm here for.
So, hey, listen, tell us about benefits and how they work. I think one of the big things that's coming up is about open enrollment. And it seems to me, and you tell us, seems to me that how benefits work and what does open enrollment really mean, and what are all the dates, and who's eligible, and how does all of that stuff work? Can you give us maybe some background about what this whole thing is about? So
as state employees, we have benefits, health benefits, dental benefits, vision benefits. And so the open enrollment period is the opportunity for employees to make changes to those benefits when there was no other opportunity at any other time during the year. So an opportunity to change during the year would be if an employee gets married or gets divorced. Their child moves out of the home, they relocate their primary residence, or they lose coverage from their spouse. Those are events that can occur at any time.
Are births included in that too?
Births are included, yes. Thank you for adding dependents to the benefits. So when those opportunities do not occur, open enrollment is the opportunity for them to change virtually anything about their benefits. If they want to switch their plans, maybe they have Kaiser and they want Blue Cross or Blue Shield. Change dental providers. Maybe you have had a baby and you have some childcare expenses that you want to start saving money for pre-tax. You can do that during open enrollment. Maybe you want to opt out of the benefits and your spouse wants to cover the family now. You can get cash in lieu of benefits. So there's a lot of different things that can occur during open enrollment when you don't have an opportunity throughout the year.
Wow, good. And so with all of those opportunities, there's a time period, and I think might be in that time period right about now. Does that sound about right?
Yes. Open enrollment occurs every, usually mid-September to mid-October. And so it occurs for about 30 days. Employees can make all of those changes, turn in their forms to their Human Resources office, and those changes will take effect in January of the next plan year.
Got it. And you may have said this, so forgive me if I'm not getting this right. How do they start that process? What do they need to do once that open enrollment period is there? And I think we're in it now. If I need to make some changes, what do I do?
So as an employee, we can do a couple of things. We can reach out to Human Resources and get some information from them, forms that you need to complete, understand the process. You can use some of the online resources that are available through CalHR or through CalPERS or through the department as well to figure out financially what do those changes look like. But I think an employee first needs to determine what their family's needs are first. Do you have special situations with maybe medical conditions for your family? Because you need to make sure that you pick the right plan that will cover those needs.
Gotcha. And then I think back on September 9th, you released, HR released a broadcast or at least a postmaster out that talked about this availability, this open period. Do you want to hit that a little bit?
Yes. So every year we release a postmaster to announce open enrollment to all of the employees on a statewide level. In the announcement, we include kind of a snippet of what to expect, like what has changed for this coming plan year, clarify what events or what types of changes an employee can make. We give them links to the different benefit providers. We include a link to the benefits calculator so they can figure out those costs. And this year we included a QR code to help employees access that information from their mobile phones.
Yeah, see that? We're going technical. There you go. We're getting good at it. That's nice. Cool.
So you mentioned going technical or using technology, but I'm thinking back to that bulletin here at CAL FIRE. There are online resources. There are mechanisms where you could work to change benefits online, but here at CAL FIRE, we're still using a paper H12 document?
HBD12, yeah. Yes. To ensure that our employees' benefits are changed properly and all the required documents are turned in, CAL FIRE does prefer and require that employees turn in all of their documents to the Human Resources office. Even though the different control agencies have portals, self-service portals that the employees can log on to, we need to make sure that we are aware of what our employees are doing. So we would rather be there to help them, guide them, and process their documents for them.
That sounds good. And a quick follow-up, thanks for that, Chief. That was really, really good as we're talking about sending documents forward. I'm kind of thinking down to, out there in the field at the fire stations and everywhere else. So when we're talking about getting documents to the Human Resources office, how does that typically work? Is that going up through the unit, through the region to HR? Does it stop along the way? I just want to make sure that folks out there are all really clear on where their documents need to go and how they get there.
So every unit has a personnel specialist.
Yeah.
The personnel specialists in those units are required to process the documents for employees that report to that location. Region has their own personnel specialists, and so does Sacramento headquarters. So employees need to locate all the documents they need, turn them into their personnel specialist. They can turn them in person, they can send them via email, they can scan them through DocuSign. There have been instances due to some of the technology situations that employees encounter in some of the more remote areas. We've even accepted a picture of someone's marriage certificate so that we can get their benefits processed. We try to make it as easy for the employee as we can.
Yeah.
And in those detrimental high activity fire seasons, CAL FIRE has been fortunate enough to get extensions when necessary from the control agencies so that we can allow our employees to not miss those opportunities because of activity and things that are beyond their control.
Yeah, so thank you for all of that. December, is there anything else that maybe we need to hone in on? I'm thinking, as you were talking about all of, the dates and all of the areas to go. So what specifically can they do during this open enrollment period?
So during open enrollment, like we said earlier, they can add dependents and delete dependents. They can change their plans. Also, the enrollment into the group legal plan is available during this time of year also, and not many employees are aware that it's an option. So enrolling into ARAG or ARAG, or maybe they've been enrolled in it for a few years, they got what they needed out of it, and they can cancel it now. Because just like making changes to enroll in benefits, canceling them sometimes can only occur during open enrollment or a permitting event. So I think that's important to mention.
Gotcha.
So other than health, dental, vision, legal services, it's things like long-term disability as well?
Yes. Only certain employees are eligible for long-term disability through the state of California. You have to be an excluded employee. So supervisory, managerial, exempt. Rank and file employees, unfortunately, don't have an option for long-term disability through the state. But I have found with CAL FIRE specifically, organizations like AFLAC, companies like that, employees can enroll through that on their own, and it has no effect on open enrollment.
Let's talk about state-sponsored benefits that are available. And not only the state-sponsored benefits that are available, but I know, having lived in both Shasta County, well, actually more than just both, but Shasta County, Riverside, El Dorado County, and Sacramento, that not only are there state-sponsored benefits available, but perhaps different types of benefits that are available based on your geographic location.
Yes. So we like to call it the trifecta in HR. There's health benefits, dental benefits, and vision benefits. Those are the three that we find 90% of the employees participate in. So the availability of the different plans can be geographic. So let's say in Del Norte County, there is only specific plans available, sometimes due to the remote locations of someone's residence. But as employees, they can also utilize their home unit. So anyone in Del Norte can use Humboldt's zip code for the office to establish benefit eligibility. Because the more remote you get, the smaller your provider network becomes. And the same goes for dental and vision. All of the benefit providers that the state utilizes have what they call zip code finders. And so employees who live in specific areas should be taking this opportunity during open enrollment to make sure that all of a sudden, my health provider that I've had for 20 years is not all of a sudden going to be unavailable to me come January, because a lot of health plans are sometimes pulling out of certain counties. And this year we saw a lot more go into specific locations to broaden the network. So I think that's an important feature for employees to look at. Also, employees who have older children, maybe juniors and seniors in high school that are going away to college. This is the opportunity for employees to really look at this, to figure out, where's my kid going to go to school? Are they going out of state? Because as wonderful as it is to go to college, the college doesn't necessarily provide the best medical care.
Correct. Yeah.
So if an employee can change their benefits during open enrollment and select a plan that is going to automatically cover their child in Delaware or Florida or something, this is the opportune time to make those changes before the kids go away to school.
Got it. Sometimes even in California too, you may need to, like you said, Chief, may need to make some switches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and so tying it back to an earlier question, just because your child is going to school in another state is not an eligible event outside of open enrollment.
Not usually.
Yeah.
It can be an event because they're moving out of the home, but they're not 26 yet, so you don't have to remove them. But it's an opportune time. I myself had a friend who also worked for the state, and her daughter received a softball scholarship to go to, I think it was like the Carolinas or something. And during preseason, her daughter was injured, and the school only covered so much, and then they had to ship her back home to get treatment. She had to have surgery. She was down, and we were talking about it, and I said, yeah, didn't you know you could, and she doesn't work for CAL FIRE also, but didn't you know you could do that? She had no idea. She was like, I didn't know. I was like, yeah, you could have switched your plan during open enrollment, and she would have never had to come home for medical care.
Wow.
Well, I want to go back to something you said earlier, and that was using the Del Norte County as an example. So to put it into real life scenarios, somebody could live in Crescent City, but they could use the zip code of Fortuna, where the headquarters location is.
Yes, they can, to establish benefit eligibility, yes.
And then likewise, to take an example in the South, you could have somebody who lives in Bishop or Lone Pine on the east side of the Sierras there, and yet still use the zip code for San Bernardino headquarters.
Correct.
That's interesting.
All right.
Yes, and it's the best way that the state could be flexible for its employees to make sure everybody's got the right kind of coverage that they need.
Well, that's great. That's what we want from our employees.
Absolutely. And there's one other thing that you mentioned earlier that I think might be important for the listeners. Many of us have children, and many of us now we have children that are getting older. You mentioned something about kids or folks who are turning 26. What exactly does that mean, December, as it relates to benefits, and what are the requirements, and what should us parents be looking for, and probably more importantly for our younger listeners who might even be working for the department right now, when they turn 26, what do they need to be thinking about?
Let me expand that, because I think that you can bring it all together. Above and beyond 26 years of age, employees get dependent re-verification emails.
Yes.
So maybe you can bring that all together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll start with the 26-year-old situation. Thankfully, the state allows employees to cover their dependents, their children, stepchildren, foster, adopted, and natural-born children till the age of 26. What occurs is in the month that your child turns 26, the state is going to automatically delete them from your benefits at the end of their birth month. So when my son turned 26 last year, I'd kind of tried to prep him once he turned 25. I'm like, hey,
it's coming.
Check this out. You need to get a better job.
Yeah. Get ready.
So you can have some coverage. But CalPERS automatically deletes them. Dental vision, same thing. They are automatically deleted. There is nothing that an employee has to do with human resources to delete that 26-year-old child. We can do everything administratively. CalPERS, who manages health benefits, and CalHR that deals with our dental and vision, they have created these portals for HR offices to use to get listings of who these dependents are that are aging out.
Got it.
So we have that totally covered. Now, with dependent re-verification, which is going on right now for myself, for those that have October birth months. So it's kind of twofold, because you've got two different sets of benefits that are being addressed right now, and it is on a cycle. So employees re-verify every 3 to 5 years. So CalPERS is going to send the member or the employee a notice at home 90 days in advance of their birth month. So in July, all of the letters started going out from CalPERS and CalHR to those with October birth months saying, hey, you need to re-verify your spouse. And gave detailed instructions of what happens if they don't re-verify them, what documents they have to turn into HR, things like that. Now, if you're a brand new employee and let's say within a year and your birth month comes up, they're going to require you to re-verify everyone, your spouse and any dependents on your benefits. From that point forward, for the next 2 cycles, you'll only have to certify your spouse, because we all know the status of your spouse can change. Your natural children usually doesn't change. And then by the time the 3rd re-verification comes around, CalPERS and or CalHR may say, you need to re-verify everybody again. So you will turn in, as an employee, you will turn in the re-verification form, the CalHR 781, and any required documentation for the person you're re-verifying.
Got it.
How that's tying to open enrollment is because the dependent re-verification form is also required during open enrollment when you're adding dependents to your plan.
Gotcha.
So if all of a sudden your spouse who's been covered through their employer, now you want to add them to your benefits, you'll have to turn in the Cal HR 781 verification document, marriage certificate, tax return, whatever we need you to turn in.
Gotcha.
Perfect. And I asked that question because I had my own confusion here not too long ago. You hit on it, but it is the employee's birth month, not your dependent's birth month.
Correct.
You've been talking a lot about timelines. We've talked about the types of benefits that are available to all of us during open enrollment, things that can be changed, added, deleted, and all of that stuff. So while all that activity is happening, it seems to me one of the important things that we probably need to talk about is the deadlines. So we're doing all this stuff. When do we absolutely have to make sure that we've got this in order for everything to count? How does that work?
So open enrollment this year starts September 16th and runs through October 11th. So employees that want to make changes to their benefits, regardless of the change, need to turn in their forms starting on September 16th. And any forms, documents need to be received by no later than, I would say, 11:59 on October 11th, because they can turn them in via email. We try to make sure that when we're talking to employees on the phone or sending them emails, we remind them, hence the postmaster and this platform, remind them of the dates. Employees should not be dating their forms or turning them in for open enrollment prior to open enrollment starting or after it has ended. The state is very specific in what it will accept and not accept.
Gotcha. So if it's September 10th and I'm itching to get my open enrollment form going and I date my open enrollment form September 10th, that's a no-no because it doesn't start until September 16th.
Correct.
That's what you're saying.
And what happens is when personnel specialists are processing these documents, oftentimes the portals that we're processing them in ask us for date signed or date received. So turning them in advance is going to result in an error that's going to say, oh, you can't accept it. It's just better if employees don't turn in anything before September 16th.
Gotcha. And so maybe even for the folks that are doing, because we talked about doing hard copy forms and stuff like that and sending them to their personnel specialists in their local unit, is it true that they could probably submit that earlier as long as it doesn't get keyed in until the date? Is that accurate?
We've had some employees turn things in a few days early, but it's dated the first day of open enrollment.
Got it.
That's okay. Permissible.
Got it.
So we've talked about the forms. We have talked about when to submit the forms for open enrollment. But there is a timeline, regardless that we're submitting forms in late September, early October, that it actually goes into effect. And when it goes into effect, then you start seeing payroll deductions. And that is so important. Yeah. Our human resources programs are doing everything they can. They are meeting deadlines. They are keying the documents. But it is the state of California, and on occasion we have hiccups, right? So I'm hoping that you can talk about when the open enrollment goes into effect and the importance of noting your payroll deductions and really some personal responsibility as well to make sure that your payroll deductions are occurring.
That's a good question.
Yes, great point. So I think during open enrollment, employees really utilizing the Cal HR benefits calculator is going to be crucial. That way there's no surprises. They know exactly what their paycheck should look like for the changes they're making. Now, open enrollment closes October 11th. Now, prior to the deductions actually being established, there is a small window where employees have the opportunity to cancel the changes they submitted. So When that happens, that delays when we can turn in documentation to fix those deductions. So it's better that employees try to make the best decision they can during the open enrollment period and don't, we would prefer they not contact us on December 6th and say, I've changed my mind. Now, HR offices across the state, not just for CAL FIRE, are processing open enrollment documents on a flow basis so that the state controller's office can appropriately establish those deductions. When payroll runs in the month of December, because state employees pay their benefit premiums 1 month in advance, so December payroll is going to cover your January benefits. Open enrollment changes are effective January 1st. So those changes will be reflected in their December payroll. So employees really need to pay close attention to their deductions and what it looks like. And because we're going to check it, we're going to catch it as well. But if something just looks off, employees should never wait to contact their personnel specialist to find out what's going on. Because it could be something that is not within our control. Could be maybe the state controller's office. But they should be very diligent about checking their CalConnect when their December check hits on New Year's Eve.
Well, that's great. And again, to reiterate, they take effect on January 1st. So somebody who is changing their health enrollment, their dental or their vision, are likely going to, not likely, will still see the existing benefits occurring in the months of October, November, and December.
Correct.
So just because I submit changes to my health insurance does not mean that my health insurance change is effective immediately.
Correct. Those kinds of instances only occur when you have a permitting event that's going on in current time. But open enrollment, no. Nothing takes effect until January 1st.
All right. So important to know.
December, thank you for everything that you've talked about so far with regards to how open enrollment works. But do you want to talk maybe a little bit more about other types of benefits that our listeners should be aware of out there?
There are tons of things available to state employees. I think the first thing that employees should do, and we talk about it during orientations, is go through a benefits orientation, because it's not just health, dental, and vision. Private sector calls them flexible spending accounts or health spending accounts. Those are available to state employees. Life insurance is available to state employees, sponsored by the state. If you are a supervisor or a manager, those premiums are paid by the state. There's nothing you have to do. And you can in essence take out a larger life insurance policy on your family members as a supervisor or manager. So employees that want more information about the various benefits available to them can check with a couple different entities. First would be CalPERS, like a control agency, CalPERS, CalHR, because they are the administrator of the benefits for us, and CalPERS actually encourages employees to create their online My CalPERS account so they can see their data in real time. They can confirm things such as service credit, retirement, how much they've contributed. They can get retirement estimates, things like that. CalHR doesn't necessarily have a portal, but they have a transparent employee website that walks them through everything possible, gives them scenarios, benefit calculators, information on how to contact all the benefit providers, and then, of course, HR. We are your subject matter expert. So if you have any questions, concerns, problems, hypotheticals, we'll walk you through everything we can. The only thing we won't do is give you a recommendation, because we don't do that. But we'll give you all your options. We'll tell you everything we can. We'll run through scenarios with you to tell you what's the potential impact by doing this versus this. And then let you make your own informed decision.
That makes sense.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, hey, December, thank you for really bringing this back home and talking about the open enrollment period. And so I'm going to take this platform and an opportunity to talk about what I have experienced or what my perceptions were over the course of my career. You know, when I entered this department, as many do, you're working for a reason, and many of those reasons are to support yourself, support your family, to live within your established lifestyle. And to do that, you care about your wages and benefits. Mm-hmm. And so early in my career, I really thought about, all I cared about was that I got my paycheck and I got my paycheck on time.
Right.
And yeah, it is important. It's even important today. I still have bills to pay. But, you know, as I came through the organization, you start having a different perspective as well. And the different perspective is, and perhaps I didn't recognize that until about 2011 or 12, perhaps, especially when I became an administrative officer in a unit, that there are so many people behind the scenes that are doing the right thing, that are doing work that really cares about the employee, their dependents, and making sure things are correct and timely. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I also recognize that all the hard work that our human resources staff are doing, a lot of times are creating a need for corrections or amendments. Mm. And so what I see, and I become very protective of, and I've talked about this so many times, is you become protective of like our staff in human resources who are getting unfriendly phone calls and frustrating phone calls over lack of pay or changes in benefits. Mm-hmm. But really, many times what that comes back to is that a person individually themselves did not do their timesheet correctly, did not submit documents correctly. Yeah. You know, we are in a phase where we're having just gone through some, for managers and supervisors, some ICA training. And for those of you who have been on those calls related to that with me on the calls, you know that I have become very blunt, that I expect timesheets, I expect documentation to be correct. And delays that occur because you don't approve your own timesheet for 3 weeks after the start of a new work period doesn't necessarily mean, though the MOU has time frames of receiving your pay, but you make it very difficult, a person makes it very difficult if they don't submit and complete an accurate timesheet in advance to make it easy on your personnel specialists and your HR staff to be able to support you through that process. So many times I find that our administrative staff, and specifically our human resources staff, are taken for granted. Taken for granted because, again, these are the individuals who absolutely care about our employees and their dependents, as I said earlier. But you need to, as an employee of this department, help yourself, see if I get this right, help yourself by your HR staff helping you. Yeah. You are the start of making sure that your documents are accurate and timely to be able to allow our HR staff the time and dedication to get you what you need.
When I started working for Human Resources 20 years ago, I thought it would be fun. I'm normally a very friendly person. I'm like, oh, you have to be a people person to do this job. And I didn't realize at the time how tedious and detail-oriented the job actually was. And that was, 20 years ago. Yeah. There's so much more automation now. And, with us implementing the ability to upload bargaining unit 8 overtime to alleviate some of that manual processing for PSs, I think that was the first step in the right direction. I try to remind our PSs, and we did it at our conference in July, you have to treat your employees' situations as if it was your own. Because just as much as it's important for an employee to, certify their timesheet timely or turn in the proper documents, it's just as important for us to treat them the way we would want to be treated and take their situation seriously and process it right away if we can. And sometimes when we can't, all that the employee needs is that reassurance that we got it. We heard you. We got you under control. We got it for you. We got you covered.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's hard to do. So we're really trying to bring everybody back to what the focus actually should be, which is taking care of the employees as much as we would want someone to take care of us.
Very
trying.
Nice. Very nice. And that was a really good point, Chief. And you're absolutely right. I mean, at the end of the day, all of us in this department do everything that we can for the good of the department, for the good of the people who work within this department. And I know I talk about this often is there are, 187, 190 different classifications in this organization. And so each of our roles are equally important in order to make this place function and be as successful as it is. We at these levels here, a lot of times we are leading all of the real work that's happening by all of the people out there, and HR absolutely no exception. Without you all, this place does not function well. It ain't gonna happen, right? The money and the documents and all of the things that we've talked about today have to be right in order to attain all of the things that you talked about, Chief, with people's livelihoods and all of that stuff. That's where it starts. And so we owe it to each and every one of the folks who are in the human resources process, the personnel specialists, the managers, the classification and pay folks, the health and fitness folks, all of the recruitment folks, all of those folks. We all have to remain dedicated to doing our part to ensure that you all can support us. And so really, really well said, Chief. That was good. Thank you. I
really think it's what we try when I'm at COA or I'm doing something with ESS for spouses conferences, PS conferences. We remind the HR employees, you're the employee's work-life manager, right? Their spouses at home are the home life manager. You're the work-life manager. That's your focus when you're here. That's what your focus should be. That's what we pay you for, is to do this for your employees. So jump in with 2 feet and take care of it. So.
Nice.
And so for our employees out there, take an opportunity, thank your human resources staff, thank your personnel specialists, thank your management services staff that are really making a difference on a day-to-day basis.
Bingo. Well, I'll tell you what, Chief, if you don't mind, I just have to say this was a great podcast. I'm really happy to have been able to hang out with the two of you. And December, Brinsfield, thank you so much for your expertise and your continued dedication to the department and just being that perfect person to come in and provide advice to folks. You're a great representative for all of the other personnel specialists who are out there. And thank you. Just thank you for that. So, folks, hey, there it is. Another podcast in the books. We have come to the end. However, you can catch this, as you know, on all of the different platforms out there, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, iTunes. I mean, everywhere that podcasts are available, you can find it there. Chief, I think we've had a good day. What do you think?
It's been a good discussion.
Thank you,
December.
Thank you, December. Folks, we'll see you next time. For now, we're going to consider this one cooked. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.